Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Last Stand, the battle for Moscow, 1941 to 1942. This is a game designed by Masahiro Yamazaki and published by Multiman Publishing. Just got this in the mail from MMP and I wanted to share a look inside with you. This has been on the pre-order for a while. It has finally reached its limit and it is printed and now available for purchase. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game's all about. In October 1941, the German army launched Operation Typhoon, the last major German offensive of the year. In an all-out attempt to defeat Russia and end World War II, the Germans managed to see the spires of the Kremlin as their high-water mark for both this battle and for the war. Over 2 million men fought in this desperate battle that would decide the war and the future of mankind. Masahiro Yamazaki, the designer of the MMP games Red Star Rising and Stalingrad Pocket, has designed his greatest game on this great conflict, Last Stand. Using all the tricks in his designer's bag, Mas has made this titanic struggle playable, but without sacrificing a great deal of history. Last Stand is a game that has no viable competitor, as it offers 3 scenarios to show different aspects of the campaign and provides a unique way of showing the plight of Soviet morale as the nation faces possible total military defeat, all in a manageable size. The game features unknown unit strengths for the Soviet units, variable and shifting victory conditions, Soviet army morale breakdown, German variable supply consumption, and of course, substantial weather effects as General Winter arrives as a reinforcement for the Soviet cause. Perhaps the most unique aspect of Last Stand is the victory conditions. As the game begins, neither player knows what they must accomplish to win the game. As the game progresses and the Germans advance towards Moscow, the Germans will find out what it takes to win. Soviet morale will continue to fall until the Soviets can strike back, and when they do, the damage is healed twofold. But defeat can happen at any moment. And it says Last Stand featured 3 scenarios of different lengths to give players options depending on how much time they have to play. Scenario 1 is 10 turns, 2 is 6 turns, and 3 is the extended campaign for 12 turns. Game contents is a 28-page full-color rulebook, a 34 by 22-inch map, 420 counters, and 2 player aids. It is rated medium for solitaire. Complexity is also rated as medium. Playing time is 8 to 10 hours. And 3 scenarios. Game scale units are divisions, turns are 10 days, and hexes are 17.2 kilometers across. So let's take a look inside and see what you get. All right, we get our D10 and D6. Listing of the components. Rulebook. Player aid cards. Counter sheets. And our map. So let's set up the map and take a closer look at the game. And here's a look at the map that comes with the game. And this is one of the nicest MMP maps I've seen. I really like the look of this map. It's got a really good palette to it, and the graphics are easy to read. Sometimes I find MMP's maps a little on the drab side. That's just me. It's just a personal taste issue, but I really like the look of this map. They did a fantastic job with this. Moscow is over here to the east, and then down south, it goes as south as Kursk, and up north to Kalinin, and out west to Smolensk. So that shows you the area of operations you're going to be in. You've got entrenchments, you've got roads, rails, rivers, marshes, pretty much everything you'd expect for this area of operations, and it looks to be a really nice map to play on. Plenty of charts and tables around the sides of the map. Anything that's not already on the player aids will be here on the map, and you might want to make some extra copies of it if you're going to be playing solo, because some of the charts do face different directions. So instead of kind of cranking your head around different angles and reading it, or if you can't walk around your table, you can make extra copies of it to have in hand during the game. We'll take a look at the player aids that come with the game. We get the overrun and infiltration movement, reaction and exploitation movement, out of supply isolation and disruption, weather and entrenchment tables on the one side. And on the backhand side, we get the CRT modifiers, the results explanations, as well as the combat sequence all spelled out for you. And on the next sheet, we get the Soviet and German reinforcement schedule. On the backhand side, we get the setup for Scenario 2, the winter counteroffensive for both the Soviets and the Germans. Now we'll take a look at the counter sheets that come with the game. On the left-hand side, we have the German forces. On the right, we have the Soviet forces. And remember, the Soviets are untried units, so all you're going to see is the movement allowance of 5 or 7. Once you flip over to the back, that's when you'll see what that unit's actual values will be in combat. So you're always guessing as as to what you've got out there. And I think that's really cool. I love variable unit strengths, especially untried units, because you don't know until they get into combat how they're going to be. Then we have a half sheet of administrative counters to close out the counter sheets. And we'll take a look at the rulebook. This is a 27-page full-color rulebook. On the inside front cover, we have the table of contents, so easy to look up any rules that you have any questions on, get into introduction, game components, maps and charts, game pieces, and how to read the counters. And then we have the military unit list by type and abbreviations, so it's easier for you to understand all the little nomenclature on the counters, unit colors, marker list, dice, list of components, and the sequence of play starts on page 5 with the German player turn. Then we get into the rest of the German phase, and then we have the Soviet player turn, all the different phases for the Soviet player. Then we have stacking and Zocs, explain out to you a movement, all the different types of movement and the restrictions, explain to you, including overrun attacks and reaction movement, exploit movement, with an illustrated example there. Combat is broken down in the combat sequence for you, attack restrictions, combat strength modifiers, ratio modifiers, and how to read the results. Then we have step losses explained to you, retreats, and then we have advance after combat, disruption, untried units. Remember, we looked at the counters before, and you had just the question mark and then the movement factor. Well, once you flip the unit over, then you're going to see the value on the back. And then we have a combat example of play with a nice illustrated page of that. Supply, all the explanation for supply for both sides and how that affects them in the game, affects it being out of supply or isolated. And then we get to special rules on page 20. We have Katyusha artillery, Soviet reorganization, Soviet morale, occupation and recapture of objectives, Soviet ski troops, Soviet munitions factories, air power, receipt and management of air power, use of air power points, reinforcement schedules. And we get to the German optional reinforcements, German cavalry division withdrawal, and then preparing for play and how to set up the game. And then scenario 2 is explained to you, listed out for the initial deployment, additional turns, Soviet paratroop units, partisan markers, and special rules that can be used in the game. And then scenario 3 is the extended game. And then on the back of the book, we have the Last Stand sequence of play. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Last Stand, The Battle for Moscow, 1941 to 42. This is a game designed by Masahiro Yamazaki and published by Multiman Publishing. First glance, I'm really excited about this game. Not only is it East Front, and I love East Front, but the rulebook looks like they went to great pains to explain the basics of things, which is a good thing for new wargamers. Most of us are going to understand this stuff and just kind of gloss over a lot of it, but still read through it because there may be some little nuances, little changes in the rules that kind of add a different flavor. But if not, this rulebook looks really good as far as getting someone who's not into war games or has not dove into something like this too deeply to read through and kind of get a better explanation of how these things work. Zocs, stacking, advance after combat, all the different types of movement, how supply affects units in combat. I think those basics that we take for granted look to be explained in pretty good detail in this book. Then you add in the optional rules, and man, you really have a much more expanded game. And I think the optional rules are kind of a must-have anyway, just at first glance. So I'm really excited to get this one on the table, and I really, really love this map. I think this is one of MMP's best efforts. I've not seen all of their games, but some of their games I'm just kind of not keen on their map style. This is a really, really pretty map. I love the way they did this. And then you have all your charts on the side, as well as what you do have on your player aid cards. And like I said, you may just want to make copies of the other charts that are on here when you're playing solitaire, and you want to lay it out sideways like this. This way it's easier for you to look at the both sides, because some of the charts are turned different ways. And you may not have the map space to be able to move around it. It's not difficult to do, but it's easier to just look at a card if you have it with you. But really excited to get this one on table, and I hope you are too. It is available now from Multiman Publishing. So I hope that helps you guys out if you'd be curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.